Democrats in passing legislation to reopen DHS today. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I appreciate the gentleman's request for a minority member day hearing, and we will take it under consideration. I also have to address something the gentleman said in his opening statement about me going against committee precedent. As the gentleman knows, it is not committee nor House precedent for minority executive branch witnesses on executive branch panels. Further, both ICE and CBP testified in front of this committee 5 weeks ago. And there was also a statement about how Republicans voted against funding TSA and other agencies. I know myself, sitting up here, have voted, as well as my other colleagues, have voted twice already to pay TSA workers and all the other employees at DHS, and I look forward to voting again to pay them this week. I don't think my Democratic colleagues can say the same. So I appreciate the gentleman's opening statement, but I want to stick to the facts here. And with that, other members of the committee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. I would now like to formally introduce our witnesses. Ms. Ha McNeil serves as the senior official of the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, performing the duties of the administrator. Ms. McNeil was appointed Deputy Administrator in 2025 and was previously the Chief of Staff at TSA. She has a background in national security and technology policy with prior experience across the National Security Council, the Office of Management Budget, and private sector roles. Admiral Thomas G. Allen serves as the Vice Commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard, serving as the service's second in command since February 2026. As a career Coast Guard officer with nearly 35 years, he has led major command operations, overseeing mission support operations at U.S. Southern Command and Coast Guard activities across the Northeast. Mr. Nick Anderson serves as the Acting Director of the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA. He was appointed in February 2026 after serving as the agency's Executive Assistant Director for Cybersecurity. He's a senior cybersecurity leader and U.S. Marine Corps veteran with prior experience across the Department of Energy, the White House Office of Management and Budget, and the private sector. Ms. Victoria Barton is the Associate Administrator of the Office of External Affairs at the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Ms. Barton brings nearly a decade of emergency management and disaster recovery experience. I thank all the witnesses for being here today. Pursuant to Committee Rule 8C, I ask that the witnesses rise and raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give before the Committee on Homeland Security for the United States House of Representatives will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Thank you, and please be seated. I now recognize Ms. McNeil for 5 minutes to summarize her opening statement.
Chairman Garbarino, Ranking Member Thompson, and members of the committee, thank you for the invitation to testify before you today on behalf of the Transportation Security Administration. This fiscal year, TSA has been shut down for 50% of the time, or 85 days. And if still shut down this Friday, we will have reached nearly $1 billion in missed paychecks. This level of disruption is unprecedented and unacceptable and significantly undermines the security of U.S. transportation systems. 99% of the TSA workforce operates outside of the national capital region, working across the country, living within your districts and communities. 95%, or more than 61,000 of TSA's employees must continue working without pay during a shutdown. Congress and the traveling public should be proud of the excellent job the TSA workforce does to protect our national security. Paying these dedicated employees for the work they are performing should never be a point of debate. And yet here we are on the 40th day of our third shutdown this fiscal year. Many in our workforce have missed bill payments, received eviction notices, had their cars repossessed and utilities shut off, lost their childcare, defaulted on loans, damaged their credit line, and drained their retirement savings. Some are sleeping in their cars, selling their blood and plasma, and taking on second jobs to make ends meet, all while being expected to perform at the highest level when in uniform to protect the traveling public. A transportation security officer at Reagan National Airport recently said, I just want Congress to pay me for the job I am doing. During the 43-day shutdown last fall, TSA experienced a 25% increase in TSO separations when compared to that same time period the year before. We have already lost over 480 TSOs this shutdown, and our call-out rates have accelerated as our workforce was still reeling from the last shutdown. Prior to this shutdown, our TSO call-out rate was 4%. Now, multiple major airports are experiencing days where 40 to 50% of their staff are calling out because they simply cannot afford to report to work. This has led to the highest wait times in TSA history, with some wait times greater than 4.5 hours. We are being forced to consolidate lanes and may have to close smaller airports if we do not have enough officers. It is a fluid, challenging, and unpredictable situation. We understand this is frustrating and disruptive. Unfortunately, we have seen an over 500% increase in the frequency of assaults on our officers since this shutdown began. This is unacceptable and we will not be tolerated. We are pursuing all legal avenues to prosecute these incidents. To the traveling public, we ask for your patience and understanding as our officers are working their hardest to ensure you can travel safely, all the while not getting paid. As the shutdown drags on, we fear we will continue to lose talented and experienced employees to other jobs that can provide a steady paycheck. Not only is the shutdown decreasing the number of interested candidates, for those we are able to hire, they are required to complete 4 to 6 months of training before they are certified to work at checkpoints. At this point, newly hired officers will not be able to work on the checkpoint until well after the 2026 FIFA World Cup. This is a dire situation. We are facing a potential perfect storm of severe staffing shortages and an influx of millions of passengers at our airports for the World Cup games in less than 80 days. I'm thankful to President Trump and Border Czar Tom Homan for their leadership and our ICE colleagues for helping the TSA workforce at key airports, enabling TSA officers to focus on carrying out critical security screening duties during this challenging time for our agency. And I look forward to supporting Secretary Mullen in advancing the collective priorities of the department. We truly are one DHS, one mission. Congress consolidated 22 agencies and established DHS to unify our Homeland Security defenses and prevent another 9/11. Moments like these highlight the importance of a unified and fully funded DHS. I respectfully call upon Congress to fund the Department of Homeland Security and to ensure this never happens again. I thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ms. McNeil. I now recognize Admiral Allen for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statement.
Chairman Gabarino, Ranking Member Thompson, and distinguished members of this committee, thank you for inviting me to testify today. The Coast Guard is a proud member of the Department of Homeland Security and the only armed force within DHS. As a vital instrument of national power, we save lives, control, secure, and defend the U.S. border and maritime approaches, ensure the flow of commerce that is vital to America's economic prosperity and strategic mobility, and respond to crises at a moment's notice. Every action we take is dedicated to protecting our nation. The American people depend on us, and we provide a remarkable return on investment, but only with consistent and predictable appropriations. For 85 of the last 176 days, almost 50% of the time, the Coast Guard has not had funding needing to operate and pay our workforce. Most importantly, the lapse is creating an unacceptable financial strain on our people. Our dedicated civilian employees have already missed several paychecks, leaving them without resources to support their family. Our military members and their families are operating under grim uncertainty of whether they will receive their next paycheck. And our deployed crews conducting critical national security missions are accumulating thousands of dollars in expenses with no way of being reimbursed. These realities erode the sacred trust our men and women have in the nation they serve. The work our crews perform every day is dangerous. Any distraction puts our crews at risk. From our tactical boarding teams executing counter-narcotics missions to our rescue swimmers deploying from helicopters into rough seas. Our crews should not have to worry about if their families will be able to pay rent or buy groceries. The shutdown is also eroding mission readiness and causing severe financial hardships for businesses who provide us with goods and services. A few examples: we ceased many preparations for FIFA World Cup and America 250. That's only 79 days away. We have incurred over $200 million in obligations to industry partners for operations, a bill we are prohibited from paying until this shutdown ends. We can't pay over 5,000 utility accounts, putting us in imminent danger of widespread shutdowns to critical infrastructure. And our inability to pay for parts and services risks triggering stop work orders, which could worsen our existing maintenance backlog and impact readiness. Our National Maritime Center remains closed, halting the issuance of over 16,000 merchant marine credentials, with a backlog growing by 300 a day. Every day the shutdown drags on moves us closer to a tipping point. And we know through experience, it will take us about 2.5 days to recover from every day we are in a shutdown. If the shutdown ended today, we wouldn't catch up until July 3rd. The Coast Guard will continue to serve because that is what our people have sworn to do. But our crews should never question whether the nation they protect will stand behind them and their families. Stable funding for DHS is not simply a budgetary matter. It's a matter of trust, readiness, and national security. Our service members will keep their watch. We only ask that they are supported while they do that. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Admiral Allen. I now recognize Mr. Anderson for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statement.
Chairman Garbarino, Ranking Member Thompson, and distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Nick Anderson. I'm currently serving as the Acting Director of CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. I joined CISA last September after serving in senior cybersecurity roles in the private sector at the White House and leading the Department of Energy's Sector Risk Management Agency function. I've also served as a State Chief Information Security Officer and as a Chief Information Officer within the intelligence community and as a United States Marine. These experiences have given me a clear understanding of the threat environment we face and the consequences when we are not fully postured to meet it. Let me be direct. When the government shuts down, our adversaries do not. For the past 39 days, CISA has operated under its third shutdown this fiscal year. CISA's workforce continues to demonstrate an unwavering dedication to mission during this challenging time. Approximately 60% of our workforce is furloughed or otherwise unable to work. The remaining personnel are carrying out mission essential functions without pay while facing increasing pressure from nation state and criminal actors targeting our nation's critical infrastructure. This is not a sustainable model. This shutdown affects morale, stability, and the overall well-being of our people. Quickly restoring funding for DHS remains essential to CISA's success at safeguarding the nation's critical infrastructure. Under the Trump administration, CISA is focused on our number one priority, protecting and defending the American people from cyber and physical threats. During the shutdown, CISA is largely limited to protecting life and property, responding to imminent threats, maintaining our 24/7 operations center, and sharing critical vulnerability and incident information at a reduced capacity. These are necessary functions, but they are not sufficient to get ahead of the threat. What has been scaled back or paused are the very activities that reduce systemic risk over time: proactive assessments, coordinated planning, partnership engagement, and strategic initiatives across the federal enterprise and critical infrastructure sectors. The result is simple: risk is accumulating across the system. Delays in issuing binding operational directives, reduced coordination with industry partners, and constrained incident response capacity all create openings for our adversaries. These are not theoretical risks. They are real vulnerabilities that grow with time. The lapse in appropriations for DHS has impacted CISA's ability to proactively mitigate cyber risk and to support physical security resilience at a time when there are numerous large-scale events, including the America 250 celebration events and the FIFA World Cup, each of which require heightened preparedness. Equally concerning, key efforts to finalize the rulemaking process for the Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act, or CISA, have been paused. This delays our ability to build a more coordinated, timely, and effective national cyber defense. Every day the shutdown continues, we're not just standing still, we're falling behind. I would like to express my appreciation for your efforts on the reauthorization of the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act of 2015. This authority underpins the trust, speed, and collaboration between government and the private sector that are essential to defending the nation's critical infrastructure. In closing, CISA's mission remains unchanged, to protect and defend the American people. But we cannot do that at full strength under sustained funding uncertainty. And I want to be clear, the men and women of CISA are doing everything we've asked of them and more under extraordinarily difficult circumstances. They are mission focused, but they are not immune to the real financial and personal strain this creates for their family. We need stability, we need continuity, we need the ability to operate proactively, not just reactively. Thank you for your support and the opportunity to appear today. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. I now recognize Ms. Barton for 5 minutes to summarize her opening statement.
Chairman Garbarino, Ranking Member Thompson, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify before you on the impacts of this government shutdown on the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I am Victoria Barton, Associate Administrator for the Office of External Affairs, and I look forward to this conversation. FEMA, a component of DHS, is the nation's lead agency for disaster response and recovery, as well as consequence management after terrorist attacks and catastrophic events. FEMA provides critical funding, training, and preparedness support to communities across America, including security planning for major events like the FIFA World Cup and America 250. With the current lapse, FEMA's ability to support Americans before, during, and after disasters is at risk. This is especially concerning as the nation faces heightened national security concerns. Currently, over 4,000 FEMA employees are going without pay, with many working through their third shutdown in less than a year. Staff are under significant financial and emotional strain, trying to serve their communities with fewer resources. The Disaster Relief Fund, which is the source of federal funding for disaster response and recovery operations, is also rapidly depleting. If this shutdown continues and the Disaster Relief Fund is depleted, FEMA will be unable to fund much of the disaster recovery efforts. This is not just rhetoric. These impacts are having dire rippling effects for thousands of Americans and communities across the United States. Disaster survivors waiting for assistance may face increased uncertainty and hardship. Local officials working to rebuild after hurricanes or floods may be unable to access federal support. And FEMA staff, many of whom have served through multiple disasters, are now struggling to pay their bills and support their families while also continuing to serve the public. In addition to these major disruptions to disaster response and recovery, FEMA's lack of funding is having dire consequences on its national security mission. The funding lapse is preventing FEMA staff from supporting critical programs that protect communities from targeted violence and terrorism. For example, houses of worship and other nonprofits across the country are unable to access additional security grant funding that would help safeguard them against threats. This means organizations like Temple Israel in Michigan, which recently experienced a violent attack, cannot receive the support they need to protect their congregates and staff. These type of programs are essential to FEMA's national security mission, and the inability to process grant actions puts vulnerable communities at even greater risk. Almost all of FEMA's training courses have been postponed due to the shutdown, including critical anti-terrorism preparedness courses and many others. The importance of these training courses cannot be measured, but their absence is being felt nationwide. Every week, over 40,000 students, primarily local emergency managers, firefighters, emergency medical technicians, are denied the opportunity to learn how to better protect their communities. The reality is this: with hurricane season approaching, each day of this shutdown increases the risk that a catastrophic disaster could occur while FEMA's capacity to respond and support recovery is diminished. This shutdown is imposing far-reaching and serious consequences for FEMA's operations and the nation's ability to prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters. I urge Congress to immediately pass funding for the department so we can carry out our duties and our responsibilities of serving and protecting the American people. Thank you for your support and the opportunity to appear before you today. I look forward to our questions.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. Members will be recognized by order of seniority for their 5 minutes of questioning. I'll be strictly keeping to the 5-minute rule. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questions. Ms. McNeil, you talk about the possible closure of small airports. Maybe TSA should shut down Dulles and DCA so the Democrat senators can't get out of here when they try to leave this week, and you should keep them here until they actually pass some funding. I want to bring up, you talked about the loss. I talked about a number, you talked about a number, how many TSOs you've lost, but something you said definitely scared me. The onboarding of new TSOs, you said they will not be trained properly enough to work on the lines in time for FIFA. Is that right?
Chairman, that is correct. It takes a TSO 4 to 6 months to be fully certified in all functions to operate a checkpoint. And so at this point, if we bring on any new TSOs, those folks will not be deployed in time by FIFA. And so we are watching our attrition rates very closely to make sure that, if we see any spikes, we'll have to pivot and assess how we are going to staff the FIFA locations adequately.
So that scares me that, it's a 4 to 6 month delay of getting new people on the line from new hires. So every day we lose someone, we can't replace them for at least, and if they get hired the same day, we can't replace the person we lost for 6 months, 4 to 6 months.